let's get into the quarterbacks, I guess. The unsurprising part of that was that there weren't many answers, but Chris, you seem to be, pretty, I guess, interested by the comments on Jack Tuttle, how accurate he's been, how good he's been since coming back and getting healthy after the injury. And Sherrone Moore on who the starter is going to be. He says, I'll let you guys know as soon as we know, maybe, which is, probably not. And he says the best 11 will play. So pretty much a non-answer at that point, and they're going to need fall camp to determine that. But he did have some good things to say about Jack Tuttle.
Yeah, and speaking to insiders close to the program, they don't know who their quarterback is yet, and that's what fall camp is for. But there's a segment of this fan base, right, that takes it as bad news, like a bad sign that Jack Tuttle might have improved to the point where he can lead this team. And it's just the opposite, guys. You know what? You want these guys to be good and to push each other. Oh, my God, he might be good enough to beat a not as good Alex Orji or something. They get enamored with the body and they get enamored with the athlete. And I understand that because we would all love Alex Orji to blossom into the next Cam Newton, a guy who can absolutely dominate with his arm and with his legs. And to this point, he has not shown that ability because they haven't even let him throw, guys. So we don't know. And from everything we heard in fall, from what we saw with our own eyes in the spring game, you even got people going back 2 spring games ago. Well, Jack Tuttle threw that interception. You know what? Guys improved, number one. Number two, he wasn't playing with a first-team offense, right? So number three, we've seen several guys have poor spring games or one bad game, and it doesn't indicate anything at all about what they're capable of. So I would love it if you had 2 great options, right? Jack Tuttle, 3 great options. Say Davis Warren comes out of nowhere and really dominates too and has a great fall. You have 3 great options, so it's hard to choose the best one. This is not about, okay, who's the least bad quarterback, right? That's not what you want. You want these guys to improve. We've seen guys like Brian Greasy. It took till his 5th year for him to really shine and show that he could be a quarterback. I remember a lot of people going into 97 thinking, man, they've got everything but the QB, right? Even though Brian Greasy showed some things in the Ohio State game that year that won him the Ohio State game in 96. He hadn't shown anything to indicate that he could do what he did in 97. And even then, he had some bad games. That Iowa game comes to mind. This is probably before you guys were born. So, but regardless, you want your quarterbacks to all be good. It is a good sign that Jack Tuttle is improving. We've heard from everybody who has seen 7-on-7s that he is the most accurate passer so far. I don't think that's a big surprise to a lot of people. To hear Sherrone Moore say it and say it with conviction and say it not just coach speak, but he's been extremely accurate. He's got the good arm. That is a good thing for Michigan, folks. And doesn't mean he's going to win the starting job, but it does mean that he's going to push Alex Orji at the very least.
Yeah, to me, fear of the unknown is the biggest thing that's driving a lot of these narratives from like a fan perspective and really from a national perspective too. I mean, you look at this roster and it's tailor-made to make the 12-team playoff if the quarterback play gets you there. And I think what we've seen with this Michigan program over the last few years is that when the quarterback play finally hit a certain floor and then a ceiling with J.J. McCarthy, you were able to push through what that 9-10 win sort of plateau was of the early stages of the Jim Harbaugh era. So it's the most consequential thing that they'll decide in this fall camp. Again, I think that it should provide at least some level of confidence. At least we'll see for now that really since the Rose Bowl, the quarterback's coach, offensive coordinator Kirk Campbell has just been kind of steadfast about what they've had. I know that they're still going to draw criticism for not attacking the transfer portal, but I mean, it's the price you pay for playing longer than anyone else and having a quarterback that played so well that he had a decision to make. So, just this idea that this is, I'm pushing back on this idea that this is 2017 all over again, where it's going to be musical chairs and no one ever establishes themselves. The position holds them back. It very well could hold them back from competing for a national title. Maybe it affects, the bid for the 12-team playoff, but the 3 guys that they have, I think that they all bring something interesting to the table. And that's not something I think you could say back in 2017. So to me, it's incumbent upon the players to go out and have a good camp, give these coaches a decision to make. And I believe them when they say they don't know who it's going to be, because again, this fall camp, that, the month run up that they'll have to the season, you're going to sink or swim at this point. And we know that they're going to pick the guy that runs the offense, that can make all the throws, and that takes care of the football. And I think they have at least 2 really good solid options there, and maybe 3 if Alex Orji puts it all together. But they need to see a lot out of him before, just determining that he's one of their quote unquote best 11 players that they need to get on the field. Like, if he does what he needs to do in training camp, he's going to be on the field because he's your starting quarterback. But Jack Tuttle and Davis Warren, I think, are going to have a say in this.
The interesting part to me, Clay, I want your opinion on this. If he says he is one of our best 11, so he's going to play anyway, what do you do with him? Does that mean a position switch? Does that mean a lot more packages for him? Does that mean running back, 2-back set, and Alex Orji is out there and you're doing things with him? That's what I don't know.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of the big question, because, Kirk Campbell, with his comments when he was on our show the other day, where it's like, and I think a lot of people took his comments saying that, hey, we're going to have a plan for him. He's going to, get on the field. They took that as, hey, he's not the starter, but they're going to do some different things with him. I don't think it means you make him a non-quarterback. I think that, I don't know if there's time to do that, because he's going to compete for the job in fall camp. Now, maybe you do use him at times, like the 3rd down play before the famous 4th down in the Rose Bowl was almost a disaster. JJ almost threw a pick on that last drive there before he completed it to Blake Corum down, and he ran down the field. But Alex Orji was in motion, and he was kind of used as a decoy on that play. So maybe you do some things like that, but I don't think that's going to be a big part of what you do offensively. I think it'd look, in Angelique Shangelis from the Detroit News asked, Sherrone yesterday, could it be like 2021 when J.J. McCarthy was kind of the change of pace and Cade McNamara was the starter? I think that is much more plausible, with actually probably more Orji than we saw of McCarthy. McCarthy, there were some games he didn't even play in that year. But that's how I see it at this point. But like you said, CB, it seems like it's fall camp is going to be what determines this. And you hope that they get their answer, right? Jim Harbaugh said, like, we're just, he used to say this, like, we want a guy to separate. Like, we want to see separation. And you hope they get that fairly quickly in camp. I know you want it to be a good competition, but this schedule is pretty tough early on. You want to have some answers, and then you can start formulating exactly what that plan with Orji looks like. So timing is big here. They don't have that much time, but fall camp it's like a month, but it's almost like 2 months because you spend so much time on it and practice time and everything else.